How Trump Turned an Oval Office Fantasy into GOP Doctrine. The New York Times. The first time Donald Trump talked privately about bleeping missiles into Mexico to take out drug BS, as far as his former aides can recall, was in early 2020. And the first time those comments became public was when his second defense secretary, Mark Esper, W. wrote in his memoir that Trump had raised it with him and asked if the United States could make it okay, as if some other country was responsible. Esper portrayed the idea as ludicrous. Yet instead of condemning the idea, some Republicans below are your comments. This is just a way of blaming someone else for our own troubles. If you want to effectively stop drugs coming over the border, you need to first address why people in the US are using them. We have an opioid crisis. We have a system where mental health treatment is incredibly difficult to obtain. You want to end cartels? Legalize, tax, and regulate. Put money towards funding rehab and healthcare. Use the military against drugs like we did in Bolivia in the early 60s? Of course, production moved to Peru, so we did the same there. Of course, production moved to Panama, so we did the same there. Of course, production moved to Colombia, so we did the same there. Now production is in Mexico. So let's be clear, the war on drugs is not a war on drugs. It's a war on the citizen. The only way to get rid of the cartels is to take away the American market for drugs through legalization. As long as there are profits to be made, they will keep doing business. Next news. Trump hit with gag order after lashing out at court clerk in NY fraud case. Reuters. The judge overseeing Donald Trump's civil fraud trial on Tuesday imposed a gag order, promising sanctions for any violations on the former U.S. president and others in the case after Trump took to social media to lash out at the judge's top law clerk. Justice Arthur Engoron of the New York State Court in Manhattan told lawyers for Trump and New York Attorney General Letitia James, who brought the fraud case, that such comments aimed at his staff were unacceptable, inappropriate, and will not. Below are your comments. If Trump is right and his properties are worth as much as he claims, why is he not paying higher properties taxes on them? A property has only one fair market value. You cannot use an inflated value to get a loan and a deflated one for the property tax rolls. Criminals think that the bank won't check the property rolls, or they can convince the bank to ignore them, and vice versa. The tax assessor won't know about the. Trump has filed 6 bankruptcies. Loan forgiveness for those, $280 million. That's money he borrowed and did not have to pay back. His claim of the banks weren't harmed may be true, as they are insured, but one bankruptcy left high-s contractors without $70 million he owed for their products and work. Please wait a moment. And remember, this is about how much Trump will have to pay. He's already been found culpable. I am a billionaire. My net worth fluctuates, and it goes up and down with the markets and with attitudes and with feelin'. Even my own feelings. Yes, even my own feelings, as to where the world is going, and that can change AP idly from day to day. Trump, deposition, und. Next news. Trump legal news brief. Trump hit with partial gag order after he attacks judge's clerk. Yahoo News. The judge in the New York financial fraud trial against former President Donald Trump, his adult son, and their family business clarifies remarks he made Monday about the statute of limitations in the case. Trump, meanwhile, says he will take the witness stand at the appropriate time. Below are your comments. The summary judgment in the NY case is well deserved since there has been evidence of fraud going back years. It's a matter of how much pain will be inflicted on Trump, not if but how painful the outcome will be. To the business. Please wait a moment. Trump's indictments will put him in legal jeopardy in so many different ways. His ego will often dictate the direction his defense lawyers take. His public statements are often off the cuff and potentially damaging. Each case will have the entire focus of the prosecution. His focus will be DV. So far the Trump defense is to prevent as much information from being released as possible. Seems a bit odd when they all say they are innocent. Trump is not laughing this time. He's already been convicted of one crime and he may not be able to do any business in New York. The walls are closing in, and his supporters have stopped sending money to him. I am not one to want anyone to get punished, but his guy is going to get everything he say. Trump said, "This is also the last chance to defund these political prosecutions against me." Seems like everything has to be about him. It's always about me, mine, myself, and I. Never about America and the American people. Next news. Trump turns his fraud trial into a campaign stop as he seeks to capitalize on his legal woes. Associated Press. Donald Trump's court appearances are no longer distractions from his campaign to return to the White House. The dynamic was on full display this week as the former president and GOP frontrunner returned to New York for the opening 2 days of a civil fraud trial accusing him of grossly inflating the value of his businesses. Trump was under no obligation to appear and did not address the court. Below are your comments. Trump is just trying to pump his supporters for more money before the gig is up. Does anyone besides billionaires really send Trump money? I can't imagine anyone could be that stupid. Please wait a moment. Trump and family have been cooking the books for decades, way before Mr. Trump was involved in politics. Trump's own attorneys never asked for a jury trial and Mr. Trump never questioned it. Trump isn't using his IQ of 2 here. Trump is making the "oh poor me," they're picking "oh." Of course Trump is in New York to make money off his angry rants and threats. The grifter never sleeps. But what about Hunter? Next news. Young people left in limbo as battle over transgender care shifts to court. The New York Times. Bozeman, Montana. When the summer started, transgender rights supporters were riding a courtroom winning streak. In state after state, Indiana, Florida, Kentucky and Tennessee, civil rights lawyers persuaded judges to block limits on transition care for minors. They won in front of judges appointed by President Barack Obama, and in front of others appointed by President Donald Trump. They won in state court in Missouri, and in federal courts in Alabama and Arkansas. But after a run of early rule. Below are your comments. So, if I understand correctly, small children are smart enough and mature enough to make decisions and life-altering, permanent changes to their bodies. But, once they hit 18, they suddenly lose the ability to understand how interest on a student loan works. That about sum it up? You can tell you have an activist judge on your hands. This fad will end and we will all sigh in relief. You cannot correct an illness between the ears with a surgery between the legs. Sounds like Big Pharma and the industrial medical complex is upset that people are getting in the why of them profiting from their experimenting on confused children. Next news. Fuller picture emerges of the 13 federal executions at the end of Trump's presidency. Associated Press. A day before the federal government executed a Texas man for the bleep of an Iowa couple when he was 18, celebrity lawyer Alan Dershowitz pleaded with then-President Donald Trump, a former client, to call the execution off. During a Dec. 9, 2020, call to the White House, Dershowitz told Trump that Brandon Bernard, at 40, wasn't the man. He was when Todd and Stacey Bagley were bleep in 1999 and that he deserved to have his sentence commuted to life in prison. Trump sounded sincere when he s. Below are your comments. I am not an advocate of capital punishment. However, after reading just what the defendants did, I have no sympathy for them. I would think the best way to avoid even a remote chance of being executed would be to obey the law, adhere to the golden rule, etc. We keep hearing about all the people dying from fentanyl. Why not use that? If death penalty is not a deterrent, then by all means abolish it. Next news. Judge hits Donald Trump with limited gag order in New York real estate trial. USA Today. Donald Trump wanted to end his fraud trial and Republican presidential debates. Both will go on. Below are your comments. Good to see the Republican Party suddenly growing backbones. Ramaswamy is as dirty as they come. He rubs me the wrong way. Give it time. Something nefarious will come out about him. I'd bet anything on it. Trump may be the most stupidest person I have ever seen. He has always gotten away with his garbage mouth because of his money, or should I say the money his dad gave him. New York City at its worst. The gag order is nothing but election interference. Trump said the truth about the judge, and apparently the truth hurts. May NYC be blessed with more illegal migrants. You would think the NYC courts would be working on how to control the illegal migrants instead of ... I've been babbling for 24 hours plus about the value of Mar-a-Lago. I just realized. Where's conservative media and Trump's kids' defense of making his penthouse 30,000 feet instead of its 11,000? They've been distracting us with something that's maybe a little bit debatable versus something that is outright. Next news. After skipping the first two, Trump's campaign calls on the RNC to cancel all future debates. Boosie. Ness Insider. Despite his repeated absences, Trump is still the leading GOP presidential candidate. Below are your comments. Sounds to me things are catching up with Trump, and he is having trouble coming up with a new script to counter the others' challenges. In Russia, free speech against the ruling party is a serious offense, leading to prison or death. Trump's failing campaign is trying to invoke the same principles. Poor Trump can't handle everyone picking on him. Heck, he just wants people to do as he tells them. Like in any good dictatorship. Or maybe, just maybe, the GOP will finally get tired of his loud mouth. He is afraid of a debate. He might haw. Next news. Judge orders Trump to delete disparaging post about his law clerk and threatens sanctions. NBC News. The judge presiding over Donald Trump's $250 million civil fraud trial in New York issued a partial gag order in the case Tuesday after the former president trashed the judge's law clerk on social media. Below are your comments. Trump's defense is always so boring. When he's attacking others, it's fine. When he reaps punishment from his own crimes, they're attacking me for political reasons. It's like reading the same book that you've read 50 times. You know what it's going to say before you even read it again. You know. I wonder what the 20-minute chat after the press was shootout was all about. Toss him in jail and hold him non-bondable. That's the only way to shut his trap. Trump would have done better in the days before the internet. He hangs himself ratty-tatting on those keys. Trump's implosion is occurring in tandem with the GOP's own self-destruction. Hopefully America can be rid of these two forces of evil come 2024 and start to function again as a normal and successful country soon. Next news. Pence calls Trump's attacks on Milley utterly inexcusable, at AP Georgetown Foreign Policy Forum. Associated Press. Former Vice President Mike Pence on Tuesday criticized his former boss-turned-rival, Donald Trump, Fr. calling retired General Mark Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a traitor over phone calls he made to China in the final stormy months of their administration. Frankly, what Donald Trump said about him in that tweet, about treason and death, was utterly inexcusable, Pence said at a national security and foreign policy forum at Washington's Georgetown University. Pence ALS. Below are your comments. Who wants to hear what Pence has to say? All he does is deflect and demonize. He has no foreign policy substance. He flashed one moment of integrity on January 6 but has otherwise been a contemptible toady. Should be a fun evening for the 8 to 10 attendees. Why is he still running? How doesn't Pence get it? When Mike Pence talks, nobody listens. Two subjects he knows next to nothing about. Should be funny though. Next news. Fact check. Biden ordered FBI to make unannounced home visits of over 100K Trump supporters? Snopes. The FBI agents say, "You haven't done anything wrong yet, we just want to talk." Is this a form of voter intimidation? A popular post on X asked. Below are your comments. Even if this were true, there are multiple violations of the Bill of Rights within the article itself. If someone posing as an FBI agent comes to my door, the only thing I'm telling them is to get a warrant and that I'm contacting my lawyers and the sheriff. It doesn't matter that it's not true. It gets believed, and that's where the problem is. Fact-check rating is found to be unfounded. Can't be proven or disproven at this time because there's no paper trail, just reporting, second-hand information. Wow! In the day of technology, you would think some of these people would have footage, or some sort of proof they were in fact visited by. Every time I see an article from fact-checkers I can already tell which way it will lean politically. The manpower required for something on this scale isn't even available. Even if it was and over 100K were interviewed, it would have been public long ago. This is about as real as Jewish space lasers. Next news. John Kelly confirms Trump privately disparaged U.S. service members and veterans. NBC News. Former Trump White House Chief of Staff John Kelly confirmed then-President Donald Trump's disparaging remarks against U.S. service members and veterans. Below are your comments. He doesn't respect you or the sacrifices you have made or willing to make. He doesn't respect Americans' role. Trump lied. Say it ain't so. You mean the guy who insulted McCain for being a prisoner of war and didn't go to a ceremony in Euro pay because it was raining actually doesn't respect the military. I hope his bone spurs have healed. If literally any other president's chief of staff openly quoted the president calling our soldiers ho died in battle losers and bleepers, they would be absolutely done politically. We can't become numb to this. Next news. Exclusive. Trump holds lead in New Hampshire but Haley surges past DeSantis in fluid race. USA Today. Nearly 4 in 10 likely Republican primary voters in New Hampshire say they still might change their minds. USA Today, Boston Globe, Suffolk poll finds. Below are your comments. He built a wall and gave deficit-financed tax cuts. Most everything else got worse, usually much worse. The voter who said he likes what DeSantis has done in Florida needs to go live there. See if he can get, let alone afford, home insurance, then see if he has enough money left to pay his car insurance. Of course, after all that, he gets to buy food and basic needs in the state with the highest inflation. I never understood how these polled or interviewed can say what they do with a straight face. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.